most accountants probably wouldn't know about these tactics.
Yeah.
I said, so they're doing their job, but
Yeah.
this is not something that they would be aware of.
Yeah.
And he said, well, so what you're telling me is I could have had, access to multiple millions of dollars that didn't have to come off of my personal credit cards.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to my show. My name is Tiffany Alexander, and this is Unveiling Journeys. Man, I'm excited to have you here today. Just a tiny blip about me. I love the power of networking. I love the power of meeting incredible people, the power of like a plus one, a one up, a referral, whatever it is you want to call it in your land. But what ends up happening is at the end of all the cool conversations I have with amazing people, I find myself trying to say, wow, this has been phenomenal. Who do you know that I need to know? But by the way, I find myself more often than not just saying, hey, I know all these really cool people. I think there's some of them that they need to know you. Let's share these kind of this land in space. And if you're thinking, Tiff, I don't talk to cool people like that, well, come hang out with me. I'll introduce you to a few of them and you can kind of let that snowball effect turn into an avalanche of amazing people you could surround yourself with in your life. With that, I have a great guest for you. And it's like near and dear to my heart in my world of like why you need a lot of really amazing things and tools at your fingertips in business. And that is why and how I met Kobie today. So welcome, Kobie. Thank you for coming. I'm so excited to have you here. Do me a favor, tell everybody a little bit about who you are and what you're up to right now.
Well, Tiffany, thank you for having me. It's very exciting to be on your channel and your podcast, so I appreciate that. So my name is Kobie, and I am here to talk to you guys about what I'm doing. And what I'm doing is helping businesses change the landscape of what they're capable of, and we do that from from a funding standpoint. So we help businesses get the cash flow that they need so that they can be successful.
Ooh, uh, hello, everyone in business that's listening right now is hanging on the edge of their seat. What does that even mean? Like you have the ability to do this for them? Like, what does that feel like?
Yes, we have the ability to do it for them, with them, and at the same time teach them the inner workings of how all of this comes together. So we know exactly what banks want to see. And we know what data they need to get businesses into that upper tier of funding. So we're helping businesses go through the process. We have the platform and the outline and the education behind it, and we're just holding their hands and walking them down that path.
Oh my gosh. Now, is there like a limitation? Like, can almost any business do this?
Any business can do it. And it's great that you asked that, because a large majority of the businesses that we consult with have no idea about what we're doing. So it's always exciting when we meet a new business and we talk to them about, you know, their limitations or where they want to go and what's holding them back. And
Hmm.
usually that's cash flow.
Cash flow, right? Because you need the chicken or the egg. Like, I need to pay for this for my business, but I need my business to make more money and all of the above. So I relate hardcore to this being in real estate. We need more money to flip more houses,
Absolutely.
which is exactly how I started in this journey. And so when I heard about you, I was like, I wish I'd met you how long ago so that I could have been doing this properly. Meaning, a lot of people don't understand that there's like personal credit, but there's also business credit. And some of them are easier and harder to get one way or another, and there's magic formulas in all of this that your company's mastered. And so cling to the edge of your seat because I want to tell you guys all about more and more and more of this. But let's do this. This is like unveiling journeys. Tell me, let's start from the beginning. Tell me about like where are you from and where did this all start from? What did you want to be when you grew up? Like, let's go there.
All right. Well, I'm going to be open some doors that have closed, but I grew up in Jackson, Mississippi, and I grew up on a farm, basically, riding horses, going to rodeos, and living the farm life. And obviously, I was going to school and trying to figure out what I wanted to become. And during that time, I had a fascination with Microsoft, so I put my sights on working for Microsoft. Now, if you'd asked me during that time, what I wanted to be at Microsoft, I couldn't tell you. I just knew that I wanted to work for Microsoft. When I graduated from high school and I went into college, I majored in biology and I did a double major with computer science. And I ended up going more the computer science route and technology and decided that that was the path that I wanted to go down. So I finished my degree, graduated, packed my bags, and I moved to Seattle.
And, by the way, computer science is not an easy degree. They make you take all kinds of stuff that you probably don't even would ever use in a computer science field. It's like silly. They have to kind of
They
make it
do.
broad enough to go to. So, and then double majoring it at the same time. So, okay, A, high achiever. Now you're moving to Seattle. Tell me more.
So when I got to Seattle, obviously Seattle was where Microsoft is. So I decided that I was going to move to where Microsoft was. And at that time, my older brother was still in the military up at Fort Lewis. So I had some family here, even though he was still active. I had some family up in this area. So I got here. I went back to school for some accelerated training. So I went to ITT Tech, got a 2-year degree for web development and server management there. And and then lucky for me, I got hired right out of school because the dean of ITT Tech, her husband worked at Microsoft. So I had that connection. And I was able to get my foot in the door because if you knew me at that time, all I talked about was Microsoft, Microsoft. So I was their biggest fan. And so I got in and worked my way up, started doing hardware and was learning a bunch of things. It was exciting. I was traveling all over the country. Wasn't used to that coming from a farm, but that was a new experience. It was exciting, and I learned a great deal about technology and just about business and people and everything. So as I progressed my career, I worked my way up, got into security, got into um, you know, the Xbox platform, which is kind of where I spent most of my time. And I started working on the Xbox Live platform and doing all types of cool stuff in that arena. Um, but once I, kind of got settled and got in for a while and I was doing everything that I'd set my sights out to do, I realized that I wasn't really being fulfilled. I realized that I wasn't really happy. And honestly, to most people, that didn't make sense. It didn't make sense to them because they're like, "What do you mean? I mean, this. You went to school, you got your degree, you got into Microsoft, you work,
The
you,
dream. The
you
dream.
it's the dream, it's the American dream." And that's what I was looking for at that time, to be honest. But I realized once I got in there, I had no time to do anything. I was working 18-hour days. Didn't have kids at the time, but I did acknowledge that if I had kids, I wouldn't be able to see them, you know, and that bothered me. So slowly but surely, I started to, kind of dwindle down in terms of how I felt about what I was doing. And it got to a point to where I was very depressed because I didn't feel like I was making the best use of my time. And there was this lingering thought in the back of my head that I was making Microsoft rich.
Ooh,
And I was stuck on a salary where I was getting paid a set amount. And don't get me wrong, it was decent, it was good,
right. Yeah.
but it wasn't fulfilling because I was spending more time at Microsoft than I was spending at home. And
Yeah.
that to me didn't sound normal. So I started thinking outside the box, Tiffany. I started thinking about what were some things that I was really passionate about. And fitness and nutrition consulting is one of them. So alongside working full time at Microsoft, I started up a fitness and nutrition consulting business. And I grew it to be fairly big, amazingly. Um, I got into the bodybuilding and the fitness community. People started to, recognize who I am. I went and got my nutrition certification. And keep in mind, this all kind of started out as a hobby. It wasn't really a career choice,
Hmm.
but I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. So, I did that for about a good solid 8 to 9 years,
What?
and I made enough money doing that to where I could literally leave Microsoft, but I didn't do that right away. A scenario came up where the team that I was working on at Microsoft was dissolving, and the reason it was dissolving is because Microsoft automated it, and I helped with that process, but
You wait. You were like the cause of your own demise. Ain't that a sucker?
Absolutely. Um, so when it started to dissolve, they gave me the option. They said, "Well, because your team is dissolving, you have the option of taking a 1 year, severance and coming back at the end of 12 months." And I said, 1 year. In a year, I can actually build my business, I can grow it out. And by the end of a year, I can decide if I really want to come back. So that year came and went, and I decided that I wasn't going to go back. Even though it was a very difficult decision, um, I chose to build something that I felt that was going to be truly rewarding and fulfilling for me. I decided to buy my time back and give myself a schedule that was manageable, that would allow me to, to be a part of a family and have kids and be able to go to, football or basketball games or so forth. So that's what I did. And literally everyone that I knew told me that it was the dumbest mistake that one could ever make. But, you know,
Wait. Were they all your W-2er friends and family?
them
Yeah.
and then some.
Yeah. I'm still to this day. Yeah. I
Yeah.
hear you.
No one understands. No one
No.
understands. Um, but in that process, as I, started to, become an entrepreneur and learn what that really meant, I realized that I was running into issues with funding. How am I going to fund my entrepreneur adventure? And, I knew nothing about banks. I knew nothing about funding. I knew nothing about finance. That wasn't my major at all. So it was kind of learning on the fly. And I made a lot of mistakes. I put myself in a lot of debt in the process. I went out, started, launching LLCs, didn't have a real purpose, didn't have a real foundation behind them. And, two out of the five that I launched, crumbled and
Hmm.
dissolved, but I tell people, Tiffany, I feel like that's necessary to some degree because if you don't have that adversity in the beginning, you don't really understand what it takes to have and run a successful business. So I made those mistakes early on, and I'm glad I did because now I understand, the mechanism and the working components of how businesses need to structure themselves to get to the next level and be successful and stick around for years and years and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
hand it down to their kids or whatever they choose to do with it. But it was a learning experience, and to say the least, it was a painful one.
Yeah, I mean, quite honestly, I find a lot of being an entrepreneur are the highs and lows that everybody's has and being able to swing back up and knowing it's cyclical, right? I mean, as long as you're not trying to sell something really silly, right? But yeah, just like the grit and tenacity to keep showing up. I even yesterday I saw a little short from Alex Ramosi, and it was like, wait, when you have your first, second, however many businesses that failed, It's not like just a fail of potentially lost income or even income if you walk away even Steven, but like it's a plus one of experience points. So like you leave with the experience behind you, which I think you just talked about. Like I know what I know now because I had that happen to me. It wasn't just easy breezy the whole time and getting to where you're at. All right. So you needed money. You had to go find ways to get money. How did that unfold into more?
Boy. So I did what probably most people would do, most business owners would do. They go to the bank, right? And they apply for an SBS or some type of business loan. Um, I found it interesting that when I was applying for business loans, they were asking me for my personal information. And I couldn't put the two together because, from my understanding, I felt like personal credit, okay, I understand the concept of that, understand why I need it, but business credit is a separate entity. So business should be able to get credit and do the things that it needs to do on its own credit. At least that was my understanding. But when I went to the bank and applied for, you know, funding, every single time they asked me for my social. So I gave it to him. I said, okay, well, I guess this is part of the process. I didn't know it was, but I guess more than not, I'm attached to the business. So I'm going to give them my information and make sure that I get the funds that I need. So the first two times that I applied for an SBA loan, I was denied. And that was shocking because I felt like I did my homework. I felt like I, you know, set myself up the right way to get an approval, but I didn't. So I went back to the drawing board. I said, okay, what's holding me back? Like, why didn't I get approved? And I couldn't find the answers. And when I reached out to the bank or the banker, the representative that assisted me, they told me we don't know. We don't have the answers. So I said, this is weird. I said, it's not credit. It's not this. And then I get a letter in the mail that says, you know, your business is not, old enough to get the funds that you're requesting. I'm like, well, how old does my business need to be? It didn't tell me. It just said my business wasn't old enough. So I waited another year and a half, 2 years, did some transactions, made some advancements, set some things up, went back to the bank, applied for an SBA loan because at that time I wanted to open up a gym and have my own gym. So I got approved for a SBA loan of $140,000, which is not a lot, but it was more than I had at that time. So it was going to help me purchase equipment. It was going to help me put, $20,000 down payment on the space that I was going to be leasing. So I was going to at least get the ball rolling, which I was, grateful for that. But things didn't go my way still. Um, and the location that I was already invested in, the equipment that I was already invested in fell through because the owner decided, hey, I'm going to sell this location. And I had already paid for the equipment, so I couldn't just
Right.
get it back.
Yeah.
So now I'm in debt with no location, still no gym, and a lot of people who are knocking on the door waiting for me to open my doors. So that was one of the most stressful times in my life. Because one, I was learning on the fly. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have anyone guiding me. I was utilizing the internet as much as possible and trying to find the answers. But it wasn't the same as having someone who's been there and done that and made those mistakes so they could say, hey, no, you don't want to do this. Here's what you want to do. Here's the way
Yeah.
you want to think about it. Um, and it would have been really nice if I had some type of advancements or some type of, funding already in place before I made those moves, before I, went down that path, but I learned the hard way. I ended up having to pay that $140,000 loan back. Um, my gym did not end up opening
No way.
because of the circumstances. And I had to really rethink my approach. So I decided that I would just continue to do the consulting, but not in a gym format. Uh, so I minimized my goals. I said, this is what has brought me income in over for the last several years. So I'm going to continue with this. And I maxed out at about 52 clients.
Wow.
That was all I could handle. And I said, well, had I, opened up a gym, I could have multiple people in place to take on more clients and quadruple my revenue, but that never happened. And the reason it never happened is because fear set in, Tiffany.
Ooh.
Fear set
Fear.
in, and
Wait, wait. Say it louder for those in the back. They know.
fear, false evidence appearing real.
No.
I did not want to go down that path again. I was afraid to apply for funding.
Mm.
So I settled and I continued to do what I was doing. I wasn't growing beyond what I could do independently. And that's a hard reality that I try to teach other business owners about, because a lot of times you don't realize exactly what you're getting yourself into
Yeah.
until you're in it, until
Yeah.
you're feeling it, you're in it, you're living it, you see it, you think about it, that's all you're doing. That's when it really sets in. And for me, that was a hard reality because it took me probably was it 4? Almost 5 years
Whoa.
to pay that back.
Yeah,
To
yeah.
get the
But that
money.
was through having to keep doing what you were doing for the income where you could pay it back. Oh my gosh. There's
Absolutely.
uh I have like a million favorite quotes, but you're like really leaning into one right now that I feel like I get told and then I tell people over and over is like you you're gonna you're gonna pay for it. What does that mean, Tiff? Like you're gonna pay for the cost of education to have someone show you how to do it right the first time, or you're gonna pay for the cost of ignorance. And unfortunately, seeing both sides of that, just haven't like me being able to pay you to be able to say, I want to go to get funding faster. You're paying for the cost of the education versus the cost of ignorance of you waited another year and a half to wait for funding when it could have happened in months, right? Or you could have just gone through it right away. So I lean heavily into that because you just have to show up and understand you're going to pay one way or another. And it's the cost of missed opportunity, the cost of ignorance, all of it. So anyway, thank you for letting me say that. But tell me more because I know we want to lead kind of circle back around to like where you went from there to get to this funding side of what you're doing right now.
So, that left me very confused. I'm a very I guess I guess you can say I'm a technical person, but I think what I'm going to say is I'm a very logical person. So in my mind, and I didn't know for sure, but in my mind, I felt like there was a better path, better way. And I'm someone who's very big into education. So I felt like there was more I needed to learn. So I went to the community college and I took some business courses. I said there has to be something that I'm missing. So I went and took some business courses, and I didn't find the answers I was looking for. So I said, all right, well, maybe I need to get a mentor. Maybe I need a business mentor. So what I found was an investor, and he on multiple businesses, and he, is multimillionaire, very wealthy, very, very honored. and grateful to have met him. What he told me was, he says, you have to have a very clear vision of what it is that you want to accomplish before you ever start working towards it. And that didn't make sense at first, but it did after a while. And I said, okay. I said, what I want to accomplish is I want to, one, have a successful business. Secondly, I want to find out how to fund my business without it coming out of my own pocket because I know it's possible. I know there's people out there doing it. How? What are they doing? What are the secrets? Where do I need to go to look for it? Well, my investor didn't have the answer to that. He was actually very old school. So he relied heavily on cash. And I said, well, he has cash right now. He can say that and he can do that. But what about when he didn't? What about when you needed two, $300,000 to launch your business into the next, chapter?
Mhm.
Where are you going to get that from? And what is the reality of being successful at getting it? So I spent a lot of time on social media. I knew there was a lot about finance. I didn't lean on banks because banks typically said the same thing. But there's a lot of information out there about finance and, business and this and that. And then I saw something on LinkedIn out of all places that was talking about EIN. And I said, EIN. And I saw this long drawn out, you know, text, post about how businesses can build credit on their EIN and get access anywhere from 10 to 50 times more funding than they can get alone with their social security number. And I said, this is what I'm looking for. This is what
Hmm.
I've been missing. I want to learn more about this. So I went in, found the email attached to it. I said, hey, I'm interested in learning more about EIN credit. So they scheduled a meeting, met with the company, talked to, the representative about it. Said, yeah, there's a way to build EIN credit. Um, this company was basically running on the foundation of Fundability, which is a company that has a platform for building credit for businesses on the EIN. So I started leaning into that and learning. And I'm like, wow, there's actually multiple tiers and multiple steps that one must cover to get to the promised land in funding. And I said, okay, I need to sign up and try this for one of my businesses. So that's what I did. I said, I'm going to do it. I want to learn how it's done. So I did it. And I started going through the steps. I started getting trade lines. I started getting, letters in the mail as time progressed. They're like, hey, you qualify for this credit. You qualify for this credit. Um, and I'm like, wow. And Costco got $20,000 business Costco card, and all these different things started to come to the surface because of what I was doing with Dun and Bradstreet, Experian Business, and Equifax, and the way that it was reporting. And I'm like, wow, my business credit score is going up. It's actually coming to life, not knowing that business credit was completely different from personal credit, and there's a lot of different variations of it, so I started seeing it. And as it continued, over the course of the next year, I started to see those doors really unlock. I started to see my business acquire credit on the EIN. I started to see, cash or credit opportunities come to life. I started to see offers come in the mail, from different banks that were offering credit. And that's what launched it into the next millennium.
Wow.
So what I did is I decided to work for that company. It's no longer around now. They actually went out of business um, for other reasons, not because they weren't successful, but because they had things that they didn't have settled from, I guess, other businesses legally or whatnot. Pretty sad story, but at the end of the day, I got what I really needed from that company. I got the education, I got the knowledge, and so I made a lot of friends. Some were really close friends, and those friends stayed in touch after the business dissolved and decided to go down. And that's where Trituring came to life. That's where the concept came to life because we all were really kind of left wondering what's next. Okay, we have this great product, we have this priceless education, and how do we get it in the hands of business owners? How do we educate these business owners? More importantly, how do we level the playing field? And that's where it came to life. AI is obviously at the forefront and continuing to literally take over everything. So we decided that we were going to do it with an AI foundation.
Huh.
Um, so I'd say it took probably about a good 2 years
Yeah.
in development, paying developers, endless amounts of money to develop the software. But just like fundability, we wanted to have our own platform. We wanted to have something that screamed value
Mm.
to literally any business owner, whether it was an entrepreneur that wanted to start up a company from scratch and has no idea how to get incorporated, or whether it's a small, or mid-sized business who's taken off, they're 2, 3 years into it, but they don't quite know where they're going and they don't quite know how to get there financially, or whether it's a 20, 30 year company that's been around and made multiple millions of dollars and never knowing that they're missing money by not developing and building credit on their EIN.
This is
So
incredible.
that's where I am now. And that's where my passion is. My passion is helping business owners, helping
Yeah.
businesses survive, Tiffany, because SBA clearly states that, over 500,000 businesses fail every single year. And the number one reason, at least 70, I think it was 73 or 76% of that reason is cash flow.
Dang. Yeah. I think you kind of answered the question already, but I was going to have you like reframe it. Um, why, wh- why do you keep trying? Why do you care so much to do what you're doing right now?
Because um, when I was going through it, when I was really feeling it, when I was struggling, I almost gave up, Tiffany. I almost gave up. And I almost decided to go back to corporate America. And there was something inside me that said, you know what, keep going, keep trying. There's a reason why you're going through this storm right now.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I continued because it opened up a whole lot of doors. It opened up ju- just, priceless relationships with people that I've met some really great people like yourself. And it continues. It's a product. I like to describe it as we're swimming in a blue ocean with only dolphins. There's no sharks. Because it's a product that, yeah, people have heard about it. It's been around, but no one's really kind of put their name on it and said, all right, I'm going to take this thing and run with it. I'm going to really go above and beyond to teach people how it works.
Mm,
I'm going to help people set themselves up and set their businesses up to succeed, you know, in terms of funding. So we know what the banks want to see. Um, we can structure their business in a way that allows them to get the funding that they need. So it's all about what the business owner is looking to accomplish. And then we wrap our services and our expertise around their goals and make it happen.
nice. This is incredible. Now, at this point, people are thinking like, "Wait, I want to know you. How do I come find you? Where do you want people to come reach out to you?"
So they could email me at kwyatt at tjcorporatecredit.com. Um, and they can also find me just by going to my website. They can go to trituring.ai. They can also go to Kobie.trituring.ai and schedule time or reach me there as well. I'm on LinkedIn. You can look me up. I'm all over LinkedIn, Facebook. You can look me up and we can become friends there. But I've tried to make myself highly available to people, alignable. I'm there as well. Just look
Yeah.
me up. Um, but I'm looking for any and every business that has even a fraction of experience with what I've mentioned so far, because I can relate to them. I know what that feels like. I know how challenging that is, and I'm here to help.
Yeah, 100%. And then this has been so good. And I've been there so many times. I didn't know what I was doing. I was reinventing myself, as beating up my single credit, just oh my gosh. If you guys have the ability to hear this and you've been blessed to hear this before you go through the crazy cycle of like trying to figure out how to fund your business, you have hit the jackpot, my friend, because you don't have to do it the hard way that we did it. It comes
Right.
full circle to figure out the easy way to do it. You can just know Kobe and do it the right way first. Don't pay for the cost of ignorance. Pay for the cost of education to go and crush it and get a crazy silly amount of money for your business like pretty quickly. So let's do this. I want to ask the last question. Tell me what like words of wisdom that you want to leave with everybody.
I think you've mentioned a fraction of that, Tiffany, but don't do it the hard way. Um, Always allow yourself to be flexible and learn new things. And what I mean by that, I like to tell stories. There's this construction company. I'm not going to give any specifics, but there's a construction company and it's a almost $100 million company. They've done a lot of big jobs. It took me about 4 months to meet with the CEO. When I met with him, he told me he had 5 minutes. And I'm like, after all of this time,
Thanks.
only have 5 minutes? He says, yes, I apologize. So I asked him, I said, what's your business credit score? He told me that he was in the 800s. I said, that's great. That's a great personal credit score. But what's your business credit score? He said, I just told you I'm 800. I said, that's actually your personal credit. That's not your business. I had his business credit report right in front of me. And the reason why is because it's public information, not private. So
Mhm.
anybody that cares enough to pull it can. And so I showed it to him. He said, how did you get that? That's not right. You can't pull my credit. I said, oh yes, I can. This is public. So I went, to further explain the report to him. I said, your business credit score is a 28. A good business credit score is going to be a 98. I say, you have excellent personal credit, but you have terrible business credit, which means that everything that you're doing business, you are attached to it in one way or another. And he told me, he said, I'm going to fire my accountant because he never showed me this report before. And I said, wait a minute, it's not your accountant's fault. Um, most accountants probably wouldn't know about these tactics.
Yeah.
I said, so they're doing their job, but
Yeah.
this is not something that they would be aware of.
Yeah.
And he said, well, so what you're telling me is I could have had, you know, access to multiple millions of dollars that didn't have to come off of my personal credit cards. And he says, I'm funding my payroll on a credit card right now. And I took a deep breath and I said, I said, we really need to talk. Um, I said, your home, your personal assets, your savings for your kids' college fund, all of that is at risk if you're attaching your personal, even if it's a business or say business credit card, if your social security number is attached to it, there's a lot of risk. So I further explained to him how, he said, "Oh, I'm in real estate. I have multiple properties that I rent." I said, "How many properties you have?" He said, About 14. I'm probably going to be about 20 by the end of the year." And I said, "Are you building credit on each one of those properties that you have?" He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well," I said, "it is a business investment property, right?" He said, "Well, yeah." He says, "But I'm not purchasing it through the business. I'm just purchasing it and using it as an investment property." And I said, shame on you." I said, "Each one of those properties could actually have an EIN of its own,
Yeah.
and you could be capitalizing on funding and credit that you didn't even have to work an extra ounce for."
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So he became my client. And he decided to, you know, start turning things around. Um, I can tell you today, I haven't looked at it in probably a month or two, but his business is $180 million business now.
Nice. Just a little bit of leverage and capital and being able to do that. It's not right for everybody, but at the same time, that's the whole point of why you're the consultant, why you're the guy. You like everybody here you're listening, you need a guy. And if you own a business, you need a guy like Kobie in your back pocket. Like by all means, you've stayed this far, you're hanging out with us, please just reach out because he's so accessible. He just said 8 different ways that you can go reach out to him, and you have to because he's also willing to spend time with you, pull it up and see what he can do for you, and then just,
Absolutely.
man, make things happen. So, oh my gosh, thank you so much for sharing your whole story all the way from the very beginning. You're like, I thought I closed those doors. No. And then sharing with us, man, just why this means so much to you and really, really being available for everybody. I appreciate your time. Thank you, everybody, that you stayed the whole time for us to hang out and unveil his journey. And I look forward to seeing you guys on the next shows that we're going to have. And again, last before we leave, thank you, Kobie, for your time.
Tiffany, thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. Bye, everybody.